Can you name any types of farmland? Because farmland is not only one type of habitat. Can you name any kinds of farmland? Yeah, like wheat, rice. Well, rice, okay, in some part of Europe too. Corn, rapeseed. So generally fields where farmers cultivate crops. Now the second type is what we see here. It's a meadow. Yes. Is the meadow as homogeneous as a field or not? It's not, yes? So you can have lots of plants, different types of plants growing around. Most of them are grasses, but not only. You can have flowers, you can have small lumps of bushes. The structure of the meadow is not as homogeneous as field, yes? You have parts with higher vegetation, lower vegetation. So generally the meadows are richer than fields. Pastures. Pastures, exactly. So there are something like a field, but with much lower vegetation, because there are cattle or sheep or horses that are grazing. Yes? So in a pasture you would have the vegetation, the grass is much lower. How do you think, where you can find most birds? In the field, in the meadow, or in a pasture? The most variety of birds, in which type? In the meadow, of course, because the meadow is the most diversified. Both the species of plants, so there are many species of plants that birds can eat, for example, the plant-eating birds, and the structure of the habitat is very diversified. So you can find places with higher vegetation where the birds can hide, for example, and with lower ones where they can feed. In a pasture, for example, you can find many birds feeding, like starlings, like rooks, jackdaws, because they are smaller birds, so they don't have long legs, and it's easier for them to forage in lower grass. But they're not going to breed there because the nest will be too exposed and the animals may trample them. It is a skylark. Skowronek. It is a skylark. I'm sure it occurs in all of your countries, at least I hope. The skylark is small, brown, and it sings usually very high in the sky. Sometimes it's impossible to see it, you just hear it. As long as you are having a meadow or a field with lumps of higher vegetations, like bushes, for example, you're going to have more birds for sure. For example, another very common farmland bird, it's a yellowhammer. And it also has quite characteristic song, which I'm sure that whenever you go to the farmland, when you have yellowhammers, you are going to hear it. Corn crake, yes, it's a corn crake. We are talking about it, the crex, yes, bird. It's usually, you can find it in the farmland, rather in meadows than in the fields. But there is at least one period of the year when an ornithologist wants to see birds in farmland, he or she goes to the fields. Do you know which period of the year it is? When we have the fields growing high and they are being harvested, it means that the area becomes better for penetration for birds. And lots of birds of prey, like buzzards, eagles, harriers, can easily find rodents, mice. So after the fields are being harvested, you can find lots of raptors in the fields. Do you remember there was a film about an owl eating a mouse? So an owl or a raptor or a stork swallow an animal, but there's trouble with hair, with bones, all the hard parts. So what do the birds do? Exactly. All these indigestible parts of the animals that they eat are being shaped into something which is called a pellet, and the bird vomits the pellet. So lets it out, not that side, but that side. And what I have here for you, we have got some pellets here. For example, here you can see this is the shrew. And the shrews have many more teeth. They are not rodents, they are insectivores. So they have lots of small teeth. Yeah. So, in fact, this what we are doing now, merely for fun, to see how it's done, is an extremely important tool for mammal researchers to analyze the composition of species in an area. Some extra activities you can also do with your kids. I'm sure that the kids would love destroying the pellets and checking the bones, the skulls, the hair, etc. Where to find the pellets? This is the most difficult thing. If you know that there are barn owls around your area, it's good to check the places where they stay, like in old barns, as they produce pellets where there are lots of bones inside. Other species like a long-eared owl, which winters in groups, usually in coniferous trees like pine trees or spruce trees, you can try to find pellets below these trees. And studying it could be also very fun for your kids to see what the owl ate, and then try to identify the bones, the skulls, remnants of insects sometimes as well, and by that to study the animals that were eaten by the animals, so the diet.
Each group will be responsible for one part of our common poster, picture. I would like you to make one big poster with meadow and with birds typical of the place. But each group will be responsible only for one part of this big picture. So you have to talk in the group and between the group. I would like you to arrange your pieces in one big poster on the floor. Sometimes it's very hard, but very useful because, as you told, we need to cooperate, we need good communication. Sometimes we need one person who coordinates everything, but it's really very useful when we want to complete something, recognize and integrate all group.